As we're finishing up this dashboard, I want to make sure we review the key best practices of building a dashboard so we can evaluate our dashboard against it. The first is we want to choose the metrics that matter. The second is we want to keep it visual. The third is we want to make it interactive for collaboration. The fourth is we want to pull data from all sources to get the full picture and keep the dashboards up to date or refreshed. And finally, the fifth is we want to make it simple to access and easy to use. Finally, we want to ensure we avoided the 7 common mistakes. I think we hit on all of those. I think that the live and refreshable point is always tricky with this type of data, but otherwise I think we've done a good job here. So let's improve this even more by adding some really cool actions and filters to really get the dashboard usable and user-friendly. One of the issues that we have, as you can see in the screen in front of you, is that the customer rankings go far down the page, which makes it difficult to navigate. Furthermore, we can't hover over the scatter plot. It's very difficult to figure out who is doing what. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of information, and that little bit of information is going to be added to the scatter plot. So let's go ahead and navigate over to the customer scatter plot worksheet. We're going to use the detailed marks to get more information to the scatter plot. So we are going to drag the customer name field, as you can see in front of you here, down to the details and drop it over the detail marks right there. Perfect. And now what we're going to do, look at that. We can see the customer name is kind of tiny there, or it's normal size, I should say. What we're going to do is expand the size of it like we did with others. We're going to make it the 15 font and bold. So we go again to the tooltip. We click on the tooltip, like so, and then we make modifications in the tooltip box by upping the font to 15 and making it bold. And then we'll click OK. And so what we'll see here is that the names are much more prominent, which is exactly what we want. So let's go take a look at the customer rank and just make sure that it also has the tooltip as we need it, and it does. As you can see here, we are looking at Hunter Lopez, and in fact the name is much more prominent. So this is exactly what we want on both of these, because it's going to be sort of customer centered, this particular dashboard. And you can see that. We'll go back to the dashboard now, and we see that, in fact, this is exactly what's happening. But even though you can hover over these names, you can't actually, unless you happen to get lucky, be able to connect the scatter plot with the customer ranking. And so that's not very helpful. What we're going to do to deal with that is we're going to create a dashboard action. In fact, we're going to create 3 dashboard actions. And the first is going to be looking at the overview and allowing us to look at the scatter plot and rankings by region. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to head up to Dashboard and then click on Actions. Then the Actions box pops up, and then we'll press Add Action, as I'm doing here, and click on Filter. And then here you get a bunch of choices, and it gets a little bit tricky sometimes, so you often have to play around with it. If you get lucky, you're going to get it right the first time, but sometimes you have to try one and see if it works and then go to another one, and that's totally okay. Totally normal part of developing dashboards. What I'm going to do here is first I'm going to rename this by calling it Filter Region, and then on the Customer Dashboard source sheet, I'm going to uncheck customer rank and customer scatter plot, and then I'm going to select the select action. And on the target sheet, I'm going to unselect customer overview. And then under clearing the selection will on the right hand side, leave it as show all values. Then at the bottom where it says target filters, I would like you to select the selected fields, and then we're going to add a filter. You click on that and another box pops up, and then you go to field and you look at the huge number of fields here and you select region, and then you click OK if everything looks okay, and then click OK again. And this will be added to your list of actions on the next screen. Click OK. Now we see that there's an action there called filter region, runs on select, source is customer dashboard, field is region. And now let's try this out. So I'm going to click on central here and see what happens to the filter. It should filter everything at the bottom, and let's see if it does. So again, just single click, don't use double click, single click on central in the quantity and see what happens. Look at that, it filters it based on the geography, right? So I click on central, it filters it. And then I click it again and it unfilters it. And that's quantity in the central region. But now, what if I want to click on a name? What's going to happen here? The answer is right now nothing. So we do have to deal with that too. And one of the ways we could do that, or actually the way to do that, is to add an action. So we go back to dashboard. We click on actions again. The box boots up. You notice that the previous action that we built is still there, but we're going to add another action. It's going to say add action, and this time I'm going to do a highlight. So let's click on highlight. And a highlight action appears. And we're going to rename this highlight customer. And then we're going to unselect customer overview. And this one here, we're going to select the hover when they're under run action on. And then here on the target sheets, I want to unselect customer overview as well. And we're going to select selected fields under target highlighting and select the customer name. And when we're done, we'll hit OK. And now we'll have two actions, filter region and highlight customer. Click OK on that. And now when I hover over the customer ranking, look at that. It automatically highlights where the other person's sales are. But it doesn't do that on the it doesn't quite do it on the other side. It does, but it doesn't, right? When I hover, it doesn't quite work. So let's do something that maybe will fix this. And so this is kind of new to Tableau 9, believe it or not, which is making modifications to the size of the dashboard. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the left-hand side under size, and on mine it says desktop browser. It's the default, even though I'm working on a laptop. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this. Instead of doing a fixed size, which it is now, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to select automatic. So under fixed size, select automatic. In fact, the default should be automatic, but it isn't in this version of Tableau, which is kind of annoying. But here now, when I hover, I could see the names. But we still have a problem because customer ranking is still really big, right? I have to really scroll down to find it. So I can scroll down to Cindy Stewart and find it, but you have a problem. You have to kind of know where the ranking is to be able to select it. So we still have an issue of being accessible to users. So we have to do more stuff on it to make it a little bit more accessible. And we're going to do that by having another action. Click on Dashboard, then Actions. And we're going to add an action called Filter Lower. And on this, we are going to deselect everything but the customer scatter plot on the top. We're going to run the action as a select. And then in the target sheets, we're going to deselect everything but the customer rank and then show all values. In the targeted fields, it's going to be the customer name again. And then once you're done with that, we're going to click OK. We'll click OK to clear the actions, and now we'll click on, say, Grant Thornton, and we see that it comes up immediately. And it looks like there are at least 3 sales, 2 that are below 0 in profit, and 1 that's a little bit above. So this is actually an example of how we can use Tableau's very powerful capabilities on actions and filters to be able to do some powerful stuff. It is also all about hierarchies, which you learned about in the previous course. I know I didn't use the word hierarchy very much, but in fact these filters and these actions are in fact hierarchies where you can look and iteratively filter down to the information that you need. It is really the fundamental piece of dashboarding. I'm going to be talking more about it as we evolve the dashboards into stories in the remaining lessons in this module and also in the final module of the course. I really look forward to catching up with you all in the next lesson. So take care, everybody. Bye.